What's that crack? What's that bleeding story? I'll tell you what the bleeding story is of Julian in the gaff. What's happening, man?
Well, I was just being very impressed with your intro. I wasn't expecting that.
I'll tell you, many of the folks in the chat tonight, it's only a new thing, so I got it sort of done the last day or two with big help from Gracie May. But yeah, look, thanks a million. Julian,
I have to say that it was very down with the kids, and I was trying to kind of translate it into 50-year-old language. But what exactly is a bleeding mad thing?
Yeah, bleeding mad thing.
well, it's spelled bleeding. That's what I was really confused about. Bleeding mad thing.
Mad thing, yeah. So, what's the story? How are you doing, man?
Yeah, it's been an all right day today. Although 2 hours holding for Barclays didn't help my cause of productivity for the day. But other than that, it's been pretty good.
Yeah, and like right, I suppose we'll get the show on the road, and there's a few people, like, if you want to get comments and stuff like that, we'll just go through them. But I suppose I'm going to just sort of ask my sort of first question, and I was just looking through a few of your streams on AFTV and stuff like that, and you said one thing, and I was there like, okay, I'm going to bring this up tonight. It was just you were saying Fergie, the earlier days of Fergie. You think Arteta is probably doing a better job at the minute. Can you remember saying that, and can you sort of elaborate on it, please?
Can I remember it? I do remember it. It was kind of brought up that the hidden story behind that comment was that I think it was against West Brom, and it was just after we went out to I think it was Villarreal last year in the Europa League. The games after that, we were winning each game, but they were pretty irrelevant. And I think that West Brom game was probably the first game after that. And we were all sat in the studio. And I have to admit, we weren't really paying too much of attention of how we normally pay attention to the games, because it was just an irrelevant game. So we definitely won that game, but none of us really watched it. And I remember kind of queuing up with Stricto to do our fan cams. And Stricto says to me, "Oh, I'm really nervous." I said, "What are you nervous about? You've done this loads of times before." He goes, "Julian, we've just spoken about everything but Arsenal for the last 90 minutes. None of us have actually really watched the game. And now we've got to go on AFTV and actually comment on it." Oh, yeah, you're right, aren't you? I had no idea. So I kind of needed to take the interview in a different direction. It kind of evolved from there. And I think Robbie was asking me about Arteta and the fact that it's time to get rid of him. And I actually sort of took a step back at that point and thought, is it time to get rid of him? And I look back at history, and I always think history is a good predictor of the future. Ferguson was a time when I grew up. I was a kid in the 80s, so I kind of remember Man United being crap, really crap, even crappier than they are now. They hadn't won the league in 30 years at that point. Ferguson came in. He came from Scottish football, and I think his first season he came 11th. His second season he came second, but he came second by about 10 points. So they were never really in it. Third season he came 11th. Fourth season he came, I think it was 13th or 14th. So I kind of thought that I know things have changed with social media and everything, but back then he was given time. But the Man United fans were putting the board under pressure. I remember a very famous banner that was unfurled at Old Trafford that said, "Ta-ra, Fergie, thanks for the memories, but time to say goodbye." Very similar to the Arsene Wenger one that was held up. It was probably one of the originals. The way my mind was thinking was that in this day and age, we as supporters seem to demand instant success. Now, the reality of Arsenal has been, since probably the 10th year of Wenger, that it's been a gradual decline, and that is a show in itself of what was the gradual decline. But I'd find it very hard pushed to find someone that wouldn't admit that after the first 10 years of Wenger, the club and the team has gone into a gradual decline. So, kind of wanting instant success, we all want instant success. Can we really expect instant success? And this guy's come in after many, many years of the club going downhill, and we expected it to go immediate. And it was never. It was, to me, that's not realistic. So, are we going to be a club like Tottenham, where we have a bit of a short-term kick, and then it all goes to shit, and we just get rid of the manager each time, and we're in this kind of just cycle of we have a bit of an upside, we never actually win anything, and then we get rid of the manager? Or are we going to actually give the manager a chance and back him? And the point that I made, and I never said, if you actually listen to the interview, that I thought that Arteta was better than Ferguson or was going to be better than Ferguson. What I actually said was, if you don't give the guy time, you will never know. And at that time, he had been just over a year in the job, and he'd managed the team through a very, very difficult period. Obviously, it was COVID, it was lockdown. They're not in front of a crowd. It was a very unique set of circumstances. He still won the FA Cup in the first few months he was there. And the point I was making wasn't that is he better than Ferguson or isn't he? But I was just making the comparison that Ferguson didn't get success overnight. It actually took them 4 or 5 seasons before they actually won anything. It was about 6 seasons before he actually won the league. Of course, once he won the league, they went on from strength to strength. But the only reason that history occurred was because the Man United board backed him and didn't sack him.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I'm just sort of looking at one or two of the questions here. I don't remember Fergie getting knocked out after substituting his leader scorer and bringing on a player who had only scored 1 goal all season.
I also don't remember Arteta coming 13th one season either. So for every example that someone can look back and say Ferguson didn't do this, I can say Arteta didn't do that. I mean, those early seasons, whichever way you want to look at it, Ferguson was a failure in his first 4 seasons at Man United. He escaped the sack by the skin of his teeth. I think they nearly got knocked out in the 3rd round of the FA Cup by Forest. I think Mark Robbins scored very late on. I mean, football and life is defined by moments, and he was that close. I think they won by 1 goal. Same happened with Mark Hughes, I think, against Oldham in an FA Cup semi-final as well. He was very, very close to getting the sack. And if he had been sacked, he would have never had that success. What a shame. It would have been great if he had been sacked. But unfortunately for us, they backed him, and the rest is history. So, whatever examples people want to come up with, the reality was that guy, from a management perspective, was an absolute failure in the early years. And I'm not talking about early days, I'm talking early years. The first 4 or 5 years at Man United, he failed. He was backed, and he went on to get unprecedented success.
Yeah, I'm Lucas Life here. Julian, personally, I am Arteta out. I don't think we can get top 4, Julian, because of the lack of squad. If we would brought striker, I would be so confident getting top 4. What do you make of that? Like, are you sort of confident in top 4 this season? Do you think we're short in players? I'll let you answer that first. Go ahead.
Okay. Are we thin with the squad? We are, if we get injuries to key players and too many injuries in one position. So, I mean, if we look at the whole team, goalkeeper, we've got 2 class goalkeepers. We've got cover in that position. Left back, we've got Tavares and Tierney. I believe we've got adequate cover in that position. Right back, we've got Tomiyasu and Cedric, who Cedric hasn't been the best, but the last few performances have given us, given me, and I'll be interested what you think and what other people think, have given me some belief that he is an adequate backup. He might not be first choice, but he's an adequate backup, and the backup's not going to be as good as the first choice, which is the definition of a backup. Centre half, I think we've got two excellent centre halves who can come in there if there's an injury. Holding, I think he's decent. Again, not the best, but adequate cover. Who else have we got that can play that position?
Let me see. Tomiyasu's position, is it?
Exactly. You can bring Tomiyasu across, and then you can play Cedric at right back. So you do have, for me, the goalkeeper and the defence we have well covered. Then if you look at the wide players, you've got Saka, Smith Rowe, Pepe, Martinelli. That to me is adequate for those wide positions. Central midfield. I think this is where potentially we can suffer. I think we have a heavy reliance on Partey. If Partey doesn't get injured, doesn't get suspended, then I think we've got adequate. You know, he can be a fantastic player on his day. He has some bad moments, but he's more than good enough. Then you have Partey.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Then we have Xhaka. Yeah. Then we have Xhaka. Now we can have a whole show about Xhaka. He's a very frustrating player. Personally, I'm not a fan, but I do see the value in him. But what have we got as backup in central midfield? We have Elneny, if I pronounce it correctly, who again, he's okay. He's a £7 million player. He's not the best, but he can come in and do a job, especially just someone holding, defensive. You know, never going to be that exciting. But, you know, I remember Gilberto in the Invincibles. He was never that exciting, but you need a player that can just sit back and do that job. Then you've got Lokonga. I thought he was truly excellent when he first came in at the beginning of the season. He's tailed off a little bit. I think his confidence has suffered because of the fact that he's not been playing enough. He had an absolute nightmare against Forest, and we haven't really seen that much of him since. But you could argue you've got cover in that area. You've got also Charlie Patino that we haven't seen much of again at Forest. He looked totally out of his depth. But when he came on in the League Cup against lower opposition, he looked okay. So we've got what I would consider to be adequate cover in central midfield. Although, yes, I could see the argument for boosting, getting a better player in the central midfield. Now, up front, I think is where, if you look at Nketiah and Lacazette, that's a little bit lightweight. But then I think we've got internal solutions that we can potentially play Martinelli in that position. And I'd like to see him play in that position, or maybe Pepe. So I think, again, we've got cover. So we might not have direct replacements in every position, but I think with the players we've got, they can be utilised in different positions. And the big thing is about the squad depth is that we've only got 15 games left. So we haven't got that many games. Now, we could be unlucky and we could get an injury crisis. But the other point is, if we have too much of a squad, too many players, you don't get them played. You know, no one gets that much game time. And you get a lot of players that are sitting there that just when they come in, they're not match ready. So, yes, I can see the argument, but I don't agree with the reality of the amount of games we've got left. No cups, no Europe. I think, yes, we're taking a risk, but it's a calculated risk. If anything, I really wanted to see the what was the guy's name? The Florentina guy that went to Juventus.
Vlahovic.
Vlahovic. I would have very much liked to see him, and I think Arsenal were desperate to get him, but it didn't happen. You can't force these guys to come and play for you. He had his heart set on Juventus. He went there, and that was the end of that. And I actually agreed with not going out to get, you know, someone you didn't want and spend, because you could have quite easily spent £40 million on someone you didn't really want.
Just on that situation there with the Vlahovic situation, like, I think he went to Juventus, arguably a bigger club or whatever you want to say. But if we had a top class manager, I think he would have chose Arsenal.
No, I think, look, you can say that. I can't say what's definitely in that guy's head because neither of us know. So you can put that out there as an opinion. I would have thought the biggest thing for him is that they're already in the Champions League, Juventus. He's in a country where he's already played. And I think the transition to Juventus from Fiorentina was a lot easier than coming to Arsenal. And also, at the moment, Juventus are a bigger club and they can offer pretty much guaranteed Champions League football. Whereas with us, it's very much 50-50 at the moment. And he may well have, he was already acclimatised there. The agents wanted him to go there. I think that deal was pretty much done, and Arsenal was probably used as a negotiation tool to kind of get that deal through at Juventus and get the player more money.
Just sort of touching on what Luke is saying here. If we don't get top four this season, okay, let's say we finish 5th or 6th, are you going to still back him? Because it's 8th, and then we'll just say 5th or 6th or whatever. Still no Champions League. Fair enough, the FA Cup. Aubameyang, I personally think, helped him over the line to get that FA Cup because Aubameyang was unbelievable that season. Will there be a time when we're not getting Champions League that you may turn around and sort of say, maybe this is the manager's fault. Maybe we could do with an upgrade. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There's always a time for everyone. Everyone reaches that time where you think enough is enough. The question is, at what point do you think enough of it is enough? Because going back to the Ferguson example, if that had gone on for 6-7 years, would Man United board still have backed him? Almost definitely not. There's always a time to cut your losses. If he came 5th this season, I mean, reading that particular comment, it said that 6th isn't an improvement. Well, 6th is an improvement on 8th. So if you're looking for pure improvement, then he has improved. And again, you've got to look at how close. If we miss out by Champions League football by 1 point, or we miss out by Champions League football by 10 points, then there's a difference. What are the performances like? I mean, some of the performances we've seen this season have been atrocious. Other times, like the Man City game at home, it was one of the best performances I've seen from an Arsenal team. We lost 2-1. Did you hear anyone complain? No, because the performances were excellent. We were seriously unlucky to lose that game. The performance was excellent. Whereas Crystal Palace at home, I remember, was crap. And it was 2-2. We got a point out of that one. Last-ditch goal, I think Lacazette scored. And the performance for the majority of the game was very poor. So there's other factors that come into play other than did we come 4th? Did we come 5th? Did we come 6th? Did we come 8th?
Like, I just think, me being honest, I was sort of Arteta out at even the start of the season. I just think we needed I think we need a top class, like a world class manager, because I just think with the players, like other players not wanting to come in, I find that he's arguing with the likes of Guendouzi, Aubameyang, the list goes on. It's sort of like he's running a dictatorship or something. I'm the boss and that's it. That's not how you get respect, the way I think. You earn respect off people, and I just don't like the way he's sort of running it at the minute. Do you think he's a dictator? Like, what way do you think he runs the sort of behind the scenes?
It would be, to be able to answer that question properly, we would have to have full knowledge of exactly what Aubameyang did or didn't do. Now, I'm going to say what I think he did, and then perhaps if we agree on that, I could then give an exact opinion on what I think, whether Arteta's management style with Aubameyang was correct or not correct. My understanding was that he was late for training, but it wasn't just a one-off; it was consistently late. Are you under that same impression?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, and I did hear as well that wasn't there something this time last year or something as well. I think was brought up. I forget what it was. I think he was late again or something like that.
Yeah, I think it wasn't a one-off problem. He was consistently late. He was a popular figure in the change room, fine, but if you're consistently late, I mean, it doesn't matter what the job is. You're showing, you're not showing a professional attitude. Now, I kind of had an interview a few weeks ago where I started talking about, I used an analogy between COVID and the Arsenal team and the virus that had spread throughout Arsenal over the years, and how it had taken on different forms, different variation, different variants. And I discussed sort of the Adebayor variant and the worst virulent strain of it, which was the Ozil variant. And laziness and an attitude, a poor attitude, and a good attitude it's catching. Now, if your captain is showing that kind of poor attitude, and people might think, I know it's a discussion we had. You said to me the other day when we arranged this show, you said, can you just make sure that we do it on time, whatever. And if you can't do it, just let me know. And I said, with me, everything goes in the diary. I'm organised. So if I agree to do something, I do it. And if it's not going to happen for whatever reason, I give you as much notice as possible. There's many people that we've both come across that don't have that kind of attitude. It's like, I'll just turn up. I'll say 10 o'clock, but 10 o'clock's just whenever I want to be. So I could turn up at 11 o'clock. It really doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, because people are organising whatever they're going to organise, whether it's a training session, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a test drive of a car or anything. They're organising it for that time. So you need to show respect for other people in all walks of life. And one way to show respect is to turn up on time. Or if you're not going to be on time, give as much notice as possible. And from what I understand, that's not how Aubameyang operated. He was, when he got there, he tried hard. I don't think anyone's questioning his attitude towards actual training when he was there. But to arrive constantly late, not a one-off, because we can all be late, but this was endemic to his personality, gave out not only a bad impression of himself, but with the younger players around, then they'll think, well, that's okay, because they look up to the guy. He's a senior player, but not only was he a senior player, he was the captain. So he's supposed to be a shining example of professionalism and how to behave as a professional player. So if he's not behaving as a professional player, then he has to be taken to one side and explained. And if he carries on doing it, what choice does Arteta have? If he turns the other way, he's kind of, yes, you can be someone's best friend and put your arm around them. Oh, please don't do it again. Please don't do it again. But if you constantly do it again, then what's he got left? And this is what I understand. I don't know for definite, because both Arsenal and Aubameyang have been very tight-lipped about what happened. But if what we think happened and it was an endemic problem, then I think Arteta did exactly the right thing. And maybe he let it slip too long, that it got to that stage. Maybe he should have been stripped of the captaincy first a long time ago, after he turned up late for the North London derby last season.
Yeah. Well, but I'm just with the Guendouzi thing as well. He's a young player. I know he messed up, but did he probably behind the scenes? We don't know. We can't be sure for certain. But it's just, there has been just too many sort of arguments with players and moving them on and stuff like that. With the Guendouzi thing, even the loan deal that they've done for him, and there's a option to buy or forced option to buy or something silly like that for 10 million. That may not have been Arteta's decision, but surely he had a part to play in that decision to say, yeah, we can sell him. Well, I'm giving the go ahead for that. I think that's ridiculous, and it really just drives me mad. Saliba is the same.
Sorry, what was the last thing you said?
With Saliba as well, he just hasn't given him a chance. I'd love to see him play.
Yeah, I think that's two different discussions. So if we can look at the Guendouzi one first, as a player, I really like Guendouzi. I think he's got a lot of potential, and he was realising that potential. He's also, I like players with fight, and he's definitely got fight. If I take the Brighton game on its own, I can't understand the reason why he'd want to get rid of him after that Brighton game. I think it was really stupid what he said to Malpay about, I get paid more than you get paid. This nonsense. Yeah, he's a young kid. I mean, I say stupid things, and I'm 50 years old, so I can't blame the kid at sort of not 19, 20. Yeah, on its own, the Brighton game, then he could have had a word with him, and you are going to get, they're going to talk out turn, they're going to do things out turn, but he didn't deserve to be dispensed with just on the Brighton game. Following up from that, he had an incident at the training camp in Dubai. Again, we don't know enough about what went on, but I do have one source at the club that I speak to, and apparently did have a major attitude problem, the kid,
Right, yeah.
and he wasn't growing out of it. And again, it comes down to, in a different way to Aubameyang, if you don't fit in, this isn't a game of individuals. This is a team game, and if you don't fit in with the team, then the team suffers. I go back to years ago, Newcastle, who were competing with Man United for the league, and they were the favourites. And in January, they brought in a star signing, Tino Asprilla, who was one of the best players at the time. Really exciting. But he didn't fit the team. He didn't fit in. So although you improved the player, the striker he kind of swapped out for, he was a better individual player. But for whatever reason, his style, his attitude, his face, whatever, didn't fit that team. And the team suffered for it. And when you're a manager, you've got more than 11 players. You're always going to upset someone. So you talk about, oh, it's ridiculous. He's upsetting so many people. But you can look at it. How many people has he upset? How many people hasn't he upset? Because you're always going to upset some people, because a squad of 20 doesn't fit into 11 places every game. So you're going to upset some. You're always going to have to drop players. You're not going to be able to play every player. If you had 11 players in a squad and they'll fit every game, then great. You're going to be everyone's friend. But you're not. So part of being a manager is, unfortunately, upsetting people. You look back at pretty much every manager, they've always fallen out with someone because they're never able to play them. You can't play them all. So I don't think the amount of players he's fallen out with. Who has he fallen out with? Let's see. Guendouzi, fallen out with. Ozil, fallen out with. I'm perfectly happy about Ozil. I've got very strong opinions on Ozil, and I was so glad to see the back of him. I think that's probably Arteta's greatest achievement so far, even more fulfilling than the FA Cup. Get rid of Ozil. Aubameyang, he's had a falling out with. Who else has he had a major falling out with?
I think Saliba, because he just hasn't given him a chance at all. He's like, and I just think even he sort of fell upon Smith Rowe as in playing him. And what I mean by that, because we were short in the position and you had no option, he had to play him. He was sort of looking with Lokonga as well. I think he threw him in at the deep end, especially I think it was the Forest game and stuff like that where he had a disaster, But I just want to sort of before I go on here, just say please subscribe if you're not subscribed. Smash the like buttons. If you don't want to, don't fucking bother. I don't care. Just want to hit Warren's team talks as well. He's put in a few good questions here. Julian, you mightn't like all of them, but what do you make of this one? Given that Arteta had zero previous manager experience, did you want him to be appointed in the first place, I suppose?
Okay, in the first place,
who are you looking like? Who was your sort of number one choice?
All right, I'll admit this one, and I would have been completely wrong about it. At the time, I wanted Mourinho.
Right, yeah.
At the time. I am very, very glad in hindsight that we dodged that bullet.
Yeah.
I'm really glad. So if you ask me, did I want him at the beginning? No, I'll be the first to admit that I didn't. I wanted Mourinho because I was craving success, instant success. I'm not any other fan. Of course, I want instant success, but I kind of take a step back and I realise that it's not always achievable. And actually, I'm looking for long-term love, not short-term lust. So, a Mourinho can bring us that short-term lust, but it isn't love. And love's built on solid foundations, trust and time. And that's ultimately what we kind of look for. But we still want that short-term good feeling. And I thought not Conte, but he's a similar character, Mourinho at the time could have brought us what many of us craved, which was success, instant success. Because I think he was really good at instant success until he went to Tottenham. Every team he'd been at, he'd won something at the first season. You know, he's brilliant. He'd come in, he'd get instant success, and then he'd piss everyone off, and then he'd get the sack and move on to the next one and get instant success.
What do you like so far this season? Let's talk about this season. How would you rate it out of 10? Now, I'll give you my rating first. I just think we're out of all competitions. November. When we came out of the FA Cup to Nottingham Forest, I was livid. I was so angry. And the reason why, because I love that competition. And I know we win it and all this stuff, and we're the record holders and stuff like that. But I just feel that, like, you know, he didn't sort of respect it enough. Like, you know, I don't think he took Forest seriously, and he just thought maybe we'll push them over, which is wrong for a manager to do, because you never underestimate any team. So how would you rate the season so far?
Okay, if we look at the Forest result and performance, it was very poor. But looking back on it, did he disrespect it? I don't think he had too much choice. We had COVID issues. We had other injuries going on. We had some of our very senior players at the African nations. He was forced. He was so light in central midfield. He had to play Coutinho and who was the other one? Lukonga, and neither of them played. He took Tavares off after 25 minutes, which I thought he was poor. Tavares, he was really poor.
He was brutal, yeah.
He was brutal, but he took the brave decision. Instead of just sitting back and doing what most managers do, is only making substitutions with injuries and 20 minutes to go. You've got to respect the fact that he went for it. So did he disrespect Forest? No, the fact he brought on Tierney after 25 minutes and made that change, I think that was ultimate respect, because he could see what was going on. Unfortunately, it didn't really make too much difference.
The only thing I have to say about that is, because he's the manager, he knew we were short in midfield in the summertime. Why not even bring back Torreira, who's on loan, or Guendouzi, or, like, you know, surely you can turn around and just go, we'll have him back. Why did he let Maitland-Niles go in around that time? You know, and he did come out in the press conference, and I nearly smashed me telly. He goes, that deal would have fallen through. Hold on, mate. Why the fuck do you need to get rid of him? You know what I mean? He would have slotted rightly in there into the midfield, into centre midfield, in that position. And he says the deal would have fallen through. You just easily turn around and say to Roma, hold on, we're very short here. We're not getting rid of any players until we have enough cover, or until we sign someone in January. You know, so I do blame him. I definitely do blame him for it. You know, he did good.
Yeah, on the Maitland-Niles one, yes, I think they should have kept him. But if we're kind of saying Maitland-Niles was the difference, then we're kind of clutching at straws. Maitland-Niles was never that great. Otherwise, he would have been first choice, and he never was. So, yeah, it was a poor performance. Forest played really well that game. But the other side of it is, it's a business. And the reality was, we were really short for a few weeks in January. But you can't run a whole business around a few weeks in January. They should still have had enough to get through Forest. They didn't. It had more to do with the fact that the players that went on that game, they just weren't up for it. And Forest were. Everything was, you know, Forest were brilliant. You know, let's not take anything away from Forest that game. The crowd was vociferous. The team was really up for it. They had I think it was a left back or a right back that I've never seen before. They had Martinelli in his pocket. Never heard of the guy. No idea what it was called.
Yeah, I forget his name. Was Cortus or something like that?
Yeah,
I
think he was. I think he was on loan from somewhere, maybe Leicester.
Yeah. Train of thought he was gone for a reason.
Yeah, but the guy had Martinelli in his pocket. Martinelli's been one of our best players this season, so we just didn't perform. But that can happen to us at any point and any team, and it was just an off day. But I don't think we can base a whole season around a poor performance in an FA Cup game. So if we're taking a step back and judging it up to now, We did well in the League Cup. We got found out on one game where, again, we were light. I think if we'd ended up playing it when we should have played it, we'd have got through that tie quite comfortably. But Liverpool cried off with the COVID and all these false negatives and false positives or whatever it is. Yes. So how well did we do? Let's take it individually. FA Cup, we did poor. We had one game, we were poor. League Cup, we had a great run. We did really well. We got to the semi-final. We were unfortunate. I'd give the League Cup run an 8 out of 10. I'd give the FA Cup a 2-3 out of 10. It was one performance, but then when you look at what Forest did to Leicester, they're not a bad team. They've really performed well. But the big thing, and what I said after that FA Cup defeat, was what's more important to us for long term is fourth place. And it's not a trophy, as Arsene used to say, but it is massively important for the long-term benefit of a football club, is to get into the Champions League. And that's where we've suffered. And at the moment, you'd have to say that we're probably favourites to do it. But it's going to be really close. So we have probably overachieved in what our expectations were. And considering how poor we've been the last few seasons, the fact we're competing and it's now March is a good thing. The other side of it isn't just the fact that we're getting the results. The performances are good, as in we're determined. You can see the players are playing with effort. They're playing for the club. And actually, the players that we've got on the pitch, the crowd are really kind of associating with these guys. Finally, we've not got players that are just there for, or appear to be there for the money. Let's be realistic. None of them would play without the money. But we seem to have players that genuinely want to play for our club. They're young players. They're good enough. They're skilled enough. They're determined enough. And it's infectious. Getting back to that virus analogy, what we've got is something spreading, but it's not a bad spread. It's a good spread. And that is being communicated to the crowd. And the atmosphere now at Arsenal, I have to say, is better than I've ever experienced at the new ground. I say new ground. How many years old is it now? Sort of 16, yes, 15, 16 years old now. But it's the best atmosphere I've ever experienced at the new ground. And I think that is to do, yes, it's to do with the fact that we're back from COVID now, and people did miss it. So you've still got that kind of novelty of being able to go to a football match still. But now we've been back for more than half a season, that's still being carried across by the fact that the team plays with enthusiasm, with pace, and genuinely cares. And when you get players that genuinely care, even if they mess up a little bit, you kind of still want to back them. And they are being backed. And that atmosphere after we spoke for the first time, when we got that injury time winner against Wolves, it was reminiscent of the Welbeck's goal against Leicester a few years ago when we thought we were going to win the league. It was pandemonium. It was brilliant.
Yeah. What reason would any top player want to come to Arsenal, given the way that Arteta has treated players? Just people just commenting on. Just going to read out a few of them here. Commenting on the treatment of player. Julian, do you trust the process?
Yes, in a word.
Okay, yeah, we'll just go through one or two of these here. Patrick Vieira is an Arsenal legend. He should have been given the job. Yeah, I suppose. Would you have taken Vieira over Arteta at the time if there was a choice given?
It would have been a close one at the time. But if I go back to the comments that Arteta's never managed, that's a fact. He'd never been a manager. But let's look at what he had done. What he had done was played at a very senior level. Oh, right, okay. So let's look at what Arteta had done. He played at a very senior level under some very experienced managers, including Arsene Wenger. He'd also captained Arsenal, so he had a history. The other thing is he had managed with Pep who is considered one of the greatest managers in the world, if not the best manager in the world, for 2 or 3 seasons. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Guardiola has produced the second best Premiership team in history, after, of course, the Invincibles, because we're not going to give them that accolade that they were better than the Invincibles, because no one was better than the Invincibles. That was the greatest ever. So you can't say that they plucked him. The way some people speak, and it's kind of a little bit naive, touching for me on disingenuous, that the impression that people give is, yeah, he's never managed, he's never done anything. He may not have managed, but he had a great grounding and experience, as much as you could do, without actually managing directly. He'd been around football for a long time in very senior positions and worked under, in various different capacities, some very experienced and very successful managers. The other thing that I didn't quite appreciate, and now kind of looking back on it on age, and we kind of made the joke at the beginning of the show when, you know, you've put this graphic up, and I had no idea what the words mean. It's all kind of down with the kids. Now, one of the benefits of him being younger is he can associate and understand a lot easier the younger players, because football's a young man's game. So if you've got a guy like, for instance, Roy Hodgson, vastly experienced, but what's a 70-year-old man going to understand about a 19-year-old kid when it comes to lifestyle and what they like and being able to relate to them? And Arteta, as being a young manager, he's a lot closer in age to the players. He was playing just a few seasons ago. He understands a lot better than people of my age, or Hodgson, or people, Ranieri, who will almost undoubtedly find it more difficult to relate to these guys. And you've got to get the best out of them. So I think that, you know, he hasn't got experience of being a manager exactly, but he's had everything but. And being young, actually, to me, is a benefit, not saying to beat him.
I wouldn't be 100% on that, but I'm going to move on. I think I'd rather, like, a manager, just a quick run off. I think a manager, like, you know, an older person, I think they get more respect. I'm going to move on. Nip on's question here. Julian, if Arteta leaves, who would you want to replace him?
Interesting. I actually said last season, before he was so well known, I quite rated the Brentford manager, Thomas Frank. He seems to be able to get the best out of a team, but there is a difference between being able to get the best out of an average stroke poor team and take a good team to the next level. You can look at, you know, even like Conte is apparently one of the greatest managers in the world, but, you know, is he doing anything great at Spurs? No, right. He won against City. The next game he loses against Burnley. Sometimes you just get managers that they kind of click with that particular team, and it's in the moment. It all depends when they get rid of Arteta. If they're going to get rid of him tomorrow, who's the hottest property in football management at the moment? I think, who's up and coming?
Well, would you? I'll throw one or two at you, right?
Sure.
Simeone.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
I love
yes.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have to say, Simeone. Yes, I'd forgotten about him. Yes, that would be my answer, because, and it's based on, I don't watch a lot of Spanish football, but I don't know. Do you remember when they came to Arsenal and they got down to 10 men with 5 minutes gone? It was a semi-final of the Europa League, and I've never seen a performance that good. They ended up drawing the game 1-1. We went 1-0 up.
Griezmann scored. We should have won the game about 3 or 4-0.
We should have done, but their defending was just unreal. It was brilliant. His organisation was incredible, absolutely incredible. And then they kind of strangled the game, and then over there we ended up losing by 1 goal. But you always got the impression that they were always going to score 1 goal, and that's all they needed. It was like a George Graham-esque team that they were so well organised that as soon as they got the one goal, they just shut the door and it was good night.
Do you know the thing I love, and you do see it all some of the times. I think he was in there, he was managing, and obviously the away fans or something like that were giving him awful stick and right behind him. And then when they scored a goal, Atletico scored a goal, he grabbed his nuts and he just started going, "Yeah, fucking hell!"
Yeah.
I love that.
So yeah, I'd like to see Simeone. If that's who I really want. If Arteta, I'd like to see Arteta succeed, and I think he's going the right way. But yeah, Simeone. But again, is Simeone sort of, has he done his best work now at Atletico?
He'd certainly get respect to the players. At the time, did you want Emery gone, or were you being controversial and wanting him to stay, or like, what was your sort of thoughts at the time?
I thought that it was just so poor by that time. I felt for him because I thought anyone that followed Wenger was on a hiding to nothing. But that run from it started probably around April time, when you had a number of teams going for that Champions League spot. This was the April before, the season before. We had a number of teams going for that Champions League spot, and every single one was throwing it away. And everyone had a very poor run, but the amount of opportunities we had to secure that fourth place was unreal. And I remember we lost to Palace at home. I think we drew to someone else, might have been Brighton. It was just really poor. And then we got spanked over in Baku. And then the next season it didn't get any better, and it got progressively worse. And it got to the stage where it was just untenable. You asked me at what stage with Arteta, would I want Arteta gone? I said it gets to that stage with everyone. It's just, when's it get to that stage? I think with Emery, there was hardly anyone that didn't want him gone. Even him, you could see that the guy was broken. For whatever reason, the team wasn't playing for him. The performances weren't there. There was nothing. And even when Lundberg came in, it was pretty poor. It was poor. So what Arteta's inherited was poor, absolute crap. We're one of our lowest ebbs.
Yeah. Do you sort of what do we need in the summer? What's your sort of ideal summer if we finish top four? If we finish top four, okay, I'm nervous at the minute. Obviously, I'd love to get into top four, get into Champions League. But the only thing then is, oh shit, we've Bayern to play, we've Real, Barca, Juventus, whoever it is, because there's going to be a big team in there with us. I don't want to be going out to these places and getting made a show of, I think we need a good, obviously centre midfielder, obviously strikers. We're well short up there, especially as we're speaking. The two, Eddie is gone and Lacker's gone. So who do we have up front, really? We were talking, I think, the other day about probably pushing Martinelli up front and, stuff like that. What do you think we need in the summer to actually kick on and actually challenge these bigger teams, let's say? Do we need, and how many players?
Okay, I think we do need some. I'd like to see the end of Xhaka. I'd like to see a real quality central midfielder come in.
I've been offering Arsenal, if you are watching, I'll fucking drive him anywhere. I'll give him a Jackie back, on me fucking back, get him out, and I'll tell him how much of a prick he is as well. So go on, continue.
I second that. We're in agreement there. I wouldn't put him on my back. I think I'll put my back out, but everything but. I think we need some real quality centre midfielders play alongside Partey. I would like to see Lokonga still kind of get a few games, and I think he could be a real prospect. I haven't got any issues with El Neni staying. Not as a first choice, but just the kind of player that can come in and do a job, and maybe give Coutinho a chance to come through. Maybe he needs a low move, but I'd like to see him given some kind of opportunity, whether it on loan or a few games in the League Cup, that kind of thing. But the big elephant in the room is the striker situation, because Lacazette. Not saying Lacazette and Eddie are definitely going, but looking likely that they're going, and neither of them have really kind of, do we really want them to stay? Maybe one of them just for some continuity. So we need some striking options. But striker is the most difficult position to get. That there's such a sparse commodity and an expensive commodity of a quality striker. And they were talking about players in January, 40, 50 million who, they're all right, but 40, 50 million, someone's all right, and not really testing the Premiership. I think we need some options up there. I always rated someone like Calvert-Lewin. I like the idea of a plan B. One thing we've also always lacked is put a cross in. We've got no one really since Giroud that can have some presence in the box and probably hold the ball up or head the ball straight in or be that physical, 6'4" striker that can put it about. And even Peter Crouch, who wasn't the most skillful player, whenever that went in the box and Peter Crouch was about, you knew that there was going to be some panic going on. So I'd like to see a Calvert-Lewin, or I'd love to have seen the guy that went to Juventus, Vlahovic. Did I pronounce that right? Finally, Vlahovic, yeah. But that wasn't to be. I want to see a big lump. I want to see someone with some physical presence. Plus, I want to see another. I want to see a world-class striker, but I also appreciate that they're not two a penny, and we're not a Chelsea or a Man City or a Newcastle that can just go out and spend £100 million on a Lukaku just for the fun of it. So we've got to be cute. We've probably got to look at someone up and coming, and we've got to play a little bit. I wouldn't say the long game, but at least the kind of the medium-term game.
Would you give Lacazette a year or 2 year extension on his contract?
Again, that depends on how much. The last thing we want is another Aubameyang / Ozil / Willian situation where everyone's, we need sign the thing. And then people don't realise it is our money. It's not our money, just sign it, just get them. It doesn't matter what they cost. Well, it does matter what they cost, because we talk about good and bad ownership, but the worst owner, and I remember having this discussion with Turkish, is that he says, they don't care. They don't care. Well, we don't know whether they do or they don't care. But I remember an owner that really cared many years ago, but he cared too much, which was Peter Risdale from Leeds back in the late 90s. He cared. He bankrupted them. That's the last thing we want. So I don't want to see, short-term success. Let's go and spend £100 million on a striker. But if we keep doing things like that, I don't want to see Arsenal go into administration and get docked 20 points and end up in the Championship. So, I want to see responsible signings. And if responsible signings means that we can get fourth place, but we might not quite be ready yet to compete for first, then so be it. Because the alternative to short-term success is long-term misery. And the last thing any of us want, if we think long-term, is Arsenal getting into financial difficulties. And many teams before have got into these financial difficulties. I know we're Portsmouth, Leeds, just to name two. Derby County, more recently. These teams can really go for it, and then suddenly they're finished, absolutely finished. They just plummet through the leagues.
Jeez, you're getting a big bag.
If we could just read Josh's.
That's what I said. Look, I'll have to show you
that. Julian is 50. Ooh, thought he was much younger. Well, thank you, Josh.
They don't give me compliments, the bastard.
Yeah, but you are only 22. That's the thing.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, gee, look at all the grey hair here. I'll tell you. That's from supporting this bleeding club. I am only 22. I'm only messing. Big up Del Boy. What's up, man? You're absolutely smashing it at the moment. Cheers, Big Joss. Looking forward to getting back to you. I had a good conversation with him the other night. He has his own channel. Subscribe to him. At the minute, he's doing exams and he's studying hard, and he's going to get back on the train when he's all that done. And I want to say as well, I've just seen Gracie May was in the chat as well. Big up to Gracie May. She helped me out with doing the intro and stuff like that. So thanks a million for that. I just seen another comment that was just there, and I'm actually curious myself. I think Tai put it in. Who is your favourite player at the moment, current squad?
Oh, he obviously hasn't been watching me on AFTV then. I was,
Who's
I,
who?
yeah, I have to say that Martinelli has renewed my faith in Brazilians after I married one.
All right. There you heard it here first, going Brazilian style, yeah.
Yeah, I went Brazilian now. I've gone ex-Brazilian.
Oh, stop. Big up, Jamino. What's the bleeding story? Cuisine. Check Cuisine's channel out. He's a Chelsea supporter as well. He's too happy on his stream. And when he sees me coming in, he goes, geez, Del, you're all stressed and stuff. That's what Arsenal does to you. Does Arsenal stress you out? Be honest.
It has done, but not this season.
Right.
Not this season. There's been one or two games, but I have to say the novelty of being back at football. I mean, we've all got our own stories during COVID, but I really miss football. I remember I went to the game against Standard Liège, I think it was, in Europa League. I was one of the lucky ones that there was like 2,000 tickets available, and I got one. And I was basically sitting in an empty stadium. So even though I was there and I was really excited to be there on one side, it was a bit sad. It wasn't how I remembered. I remember doing the FTV interview after with Cecil, and it was different. And it wasn't different good. It was different bad. So I think this season, I've been really appreciative of the fact that I've been able to go back to football. I've been to every game so far this season. I've really enjoyed it. The first three games, yes, they might have been miserable from a football perspective, but I was on such a high that I was actually at football again that I enjoyed it. And okay, I'm kind of getting used to being back now, but the football's good. Is it stressful? Yeah, because you care, but I think we've overachieved. The expectations I had for this season, we've overachieved. And when you have slightly lower expectations and you're overachieving, you're happy with them. I didn't go into the season thinking we were going to win the league. So the fact that we're competing for fourth place at the moment and we're doing well and the team's enthusiastic, I'm really appreciating what I'm seeing. So I'm getting less stressed. The last time I got really stressed was, I think, towards the that end of the Emery's first season, when we've touched on that before, when we were throwing stuff away against Palace. I remember going with my dad and Mustafi was put on his arse. I think we lost 3-1. Was it Palace? I think it was Palace. And then he gave away a penalty, and I was just screaming. And then I had I was seeing a girl at the time. I brought her to the next game. I think it was Brighton, and we ended up drawing that 1-1 when we were expected to win. And that again was our opportunity to get into the Champions League. We messed that up. And that was the last time I ever saw her, because she saw me in a different light from this, being calm and collected and talking about ballet and opera, all things I'm not really interested in, and then seeing me screaming and shouting and hurling abuse at 11 players and a manager on a football pitch. And that was the end of that. It was I learnt my lesson. Probably don't take girls to football that you're trying to appear to be a normal, decent human being with.
Yeah. And just sort of for, let's say, the people who are watching now, like how did you sort of get involved with AFTV, and what's your sort of plans for the future? And
how to get involved? I met Robbie, funny enough, at a game we just spoke about, which was Atletico Madrid away. I met him on the way in, very affable gentleman. We started talking and swap details, just as two guys would of football fans. We ended up going to a few games together, and then I used to come along to the watch-alongs. And I wasn't quite sure whether I wanted to get involved being in front of the camera. I didn't, it's not something I'd done before, and he didn't encourage or discourage me. The opportunity was there, and I did an interview, and I thought, oh, I like this. I quite like this idea. It's good fun, and it's not my business. I've got other business interests. I just enjoy it. If you ask me to come on and talk for an hour about quantum physics, I think I'd probably struggle. But you come on and ask me to talk about Arsenal, then it's what I talk about anyway.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it. It's a subject that am I knowledgeable about? Yeah, because it's something it's the main focus of my life, other than sort of my family and making money and Arsenal. Arsenal's my main interest. I mean, being at university for 3-4 years, and probably 90% of the time I spoke about Arsenal. So just to speak about Arsenal with a camera in my face, it doesn't really make a difference. It's just two mates talking about Arsenal.
Yeah,
Just happens to be a camera there, so I've got no real plans for it. I just enjoy talking about it because it's my passion.
And how did you become to supporting Arsenal? Like, are you like from the area, or what made you support Arsenal?
Okay, I'll try and make the story as short as possible because I know we've probably got a time constraint here. But my father was an Arsenal fan, not as into it as I am, and at the age of 7, he took me to my first game. He's very risk averse, my dad. This was at Highbury, and I remember he made us get off the train at I think it was Manor House. So he didn't want to be too close. He didn't want to come out Arsenal. He said, "Oh, there'll be too many crowds, and let's walk from Manor House." And my first recollection was walking from kind of around Finsbury Park, along Avenel Road, and we turned a gradual corner. It wasn't like a right angle corner; it was a bend in the road. And I remember seeing the East Stand and what looked like hundreds of thousands of ants, and it was all people. And the closer I got, the more I could see it was people. But from that distance, it just seemed to be so many people. And we got to the ticket office. It was an Arsenal Liverpool game, and he went to the ticket office. He said, "Oh, can we have 2 tickets?" I said, "Oh, it's sold out, but you can stand behind the goal." And I said, or he said, "I'm not taking my young boy behind the goal. It's too dangerous." I mean, at the time, I thought he was mental, but obviously, in hindsight, he was exactly correct. Standing behind the goal back in those days was dangerous. And he said, "No, I'm not doing that." He goes, "Don't worry. There was a very well-known tout, spiv, as we called him in the day, called Stan Flashman. Don't know if you're familiar with that gentleman. He ended up being chairman of Barnet."
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and he went up to Stan. He said, "Oh, yeah, can I have 2 tickets for the game?" And Stan said, "Oh, that's..." And he made the mistake, my dad. He said to Stan, "Oh, yeah, it's my son's first game. We can't get tickets." So, of course, Stan upped the price, and he said something like, "Oh, it's like £20 a ticket." And £20 a ticket back in '77 was probably the equivalent of about £500 a ticket in today's money. It was a massive amount. My dad said in front of Stan, he goes to me, "Don't worry. We'll wait till the game starts and Stan will lower his price." Now, Stan couldn't lower his price once my dad had said that. He'd laid the gauntlet. And my first recollection of going to Arsenal was standing outside of an Arsenal-Liverpool game till half-time, having to listen to the crowd with Stan Flashman never lowering his price, my dad refusing to pay the money, and me not actually getting in. And at half-time, my dad saying, "Oh, I think that we'll come back and we'll go to another game." And I think one of the reasons I'm such a big fan is that, and they always relate this to childhood issues, was that I was denied entry to something, and ever since I've had to get in.
Jesus Christ! I'll tell you, that happened to me before as well. Years ago, I was outside Highbury, and I only had 1 ticket, and I had the ex-missus with me, and we couldn't get in. You know, she had no ticket, so we had to. I had to go. See ya. I was fucking sick. It was against Portsmouth. I'll never forget. I'm trying to look for a ticket, and all running up and down the road. Was there tickets? Anyone taking? No one was fucking. It was like, I think it was. It could have been the '98 season or something like that. Like, at the time, it was years ago. But Jesus Christ, yeah, it was tough. What's So, what was your best game at the Emirates to go? Did you enjoy?
Best game, I think, at the Emirates has been. I remember the Barcelona games. I think there was 2 really class Barcelona games. There was one where, for the first 20 minutes, Almunia had the game of his life. They absolutely ripped us apart, and somehow kept it 0-0. I've never seen a team play that well. Barcelona were just tremendous. I think one game against Barcelona, Fabregas, it was his last ever kick for us. He had a broken leg and scored a penalty. I think that, for an individual game, was probably the best game I've ever seen. 2 teams that were both fabulous, playing at the top of their games with maximum effort, maximum skill, maximum technical ability, and the atmosphere was just tremendous. I mean, a few of the Tottenham 5-2s were just brilliant. When we beat them, I think consecutive season 5-2s. This season against Spurs was really good when we beat them. I think 3-1. That was a really great game. So those comes to mind. Another one against Man United, I think, in the first season when I think Vieira scored. No, Vieira wasn't playing for us. Who scored the winner? Someone scored the winner. It was a header, I remember. Might have been Van Persie against Man United in our first season. That was good. I like that. But there hasn't been that many to choose from.
I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So far, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But then, do you honestly think that Arteta then can really sort of make it and make us challenge for the league?
I think that's really tough for anyone to challenge. Newcastle going to be up there, Man City and Chelsea for the finances. I think that the Leicester season was phenomenal, but I don't see that being repeated. I think Liverpool have done tremendously well. So we can, but the landscape of football has changed since we last won the league. There was only ever, yes, Man United had the deepest pockets, but it was organic growth. But now, you can get a nothing team like a Man City, like a Newcastle, who are just plucked out of mid-table stroke, bottom of the table obscurity and made into world beaters because some oil-rich nation will just back them to the hill. And what can you do against that? It's very, very difficult. Very difficult. So can we compete for the league? It's a lot tougher now than it was.
Can you hear me there?
I can hear you. I lost you for a second, but only a second.
Just this one here. If Julian, you trust the process, you must support the Cronkies.
I'm not against the Cronkies. I don't think they've done anything particularly bad. I run my own businesses. I can see the challenges that they've got. And ultimately, I respect that for them, they're not supporters. They didn't grow up standing outside Arsenal when they were 7 years old, not being let into a Liverpool game and having that childhood trauma. They're American businessmen who have come in. They seem pretty responsible. They've backed the manager with some big signings and some big money. I'm not against them. I'm not against them. Am I a big supporter of them? No, not really, because I like the idea of owners being anonymous. I don't think they should get too involved. Just give the manager enough money to do what we need to do, but also be responsible. Don't give him too much money, like with the Peter Risdale scenario. The last thing I want to do is send us bust. Because one thing I can guarantee is that I will be with Arsenal for life, as will you, Del Boy. But for them, it's a business that they can buy and they can sell. So long as they leave it in financially good health and back us to the level that we can be backed without putting us into a dangerous financial position, then I'm happy with them, or at least not angry with them.
I'm just going to hit this out with Luca. He's asked it once or twice. He's dying to know. Would you take Graham Potter?
I'd rather have Simeone.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Simeone. He seems all right, but he seems to be a bit of a vanilla character to me. So he seems okay. He's definitely done a good job with Brighton, but doing a good job with Brighton, there's a massive difference between taking an average to poor team and making them the best that they can be and bringing them into an average Premiership team, which Brighton are. They're an average Premiership team, than taking a sleeping giant like Arsenal and making them better. We need an improvement on what we've got in every position if you're going to make the change. And is Graham Potter any better than Arteta? Don't know. Not convinced. Is Simeone potentially an up on Arteta? I think so from what he's done. If Arteta wasn't about.
Yeah, I think he'd do a good job, Potter. Myself, I personally do. I'd take him, if there was no other manager, let's say, available, because at the end of the day, we all don't know what Simeone, let's say, has on his contract. He could have another 2, 3, 4 years, and you have to buy it out. I can't see the Kroenkes actually buying out for a manager, paying out for them, because, and this is one thing I'm sort of leading into the question, is we're not going to buy a manager out. I just cannot see them paying 6, 7 million or something for a manager and then offer him a contract and stuff like that. I don't think they'll do that. What I'm saying is, with my question, there's rumours that he's getting a 3-year contract for 8.3 million. Do you think it's a good idea, and would you back it?
Okay, I think when you look at, 8.3 million seems a staggering amount of money to me. But then when you compare that against 71 million for Pepe, it doesn't seem like a lot, does it? And you could easily argue that the manager's position is more important to Arsenal than a substitute winger that's on the bench. So the reality with these contracts are that, if it doesn't work out, they pay them off. And in the scheme of things, although 8.3 million is a staggering amount of money in the real world, this is the football world. And 8.3 million is basically the worth of Emery, who's not that great. So it's not a lot of money in footballing terms. So if it secures and if it was a difference in 2 league places, it's well worth it.
But I definitely wouldn't. I think it's a joke, because if we give him that 8.3 million a year, let's say now this time next year we're out of all the cup competitions. Let's say if we're in Champions League or whatever, we're out of that. We're just going around in circles. We're not gaining. I want to be challenging for titles. I don't want to be doing this thing. Everyone, Arsenal are nice and this. I want everyone to fucking hate Arsenal who's not an Arsenal supporter. You know what I mean? Because everyone loves the team. They're not challenging. And that's why Pep, I feel, is bigging up Arteta, saying, he's a great manager and this and that. Yeah, you're saying that because you don't want Arsenal rocking. You don't want it to be going to the Emirates and, getting mauled by Arsenal. So I think then, let's say this time next year, if we're still in the same position, we're still just existing, if you know what I mean. Then you're going to have to sack him. Let's say if you have to sack him, you have to pay serious amount of money to get rid of him.
You've got to pay pro rata whatever's left on the contract, 8.3 million. But in footballing terms, 8.3 million is not going to make or break us. If we can spend that much, if we talk about waste, you're looking at we've wasted more. It doesn't justify extra waste, but it's risk reward. So when you see the level of stupidity with finances that we've had in some of the deals, Willian, Aubameyang, Ozil being the worst, Pepe's transfer fee. For me, Pepe, what's the transfer fee? 71 million. For me, he's a 10 million pound player with 61 million pound in someone's back pocket. He's not a 71 million pound. He's not a bad player. Proved that the other day. Came on, he really looked quite class, but 71 million. So it's kind of worth. You do have to spend money in football and serious money. And 8.3 million is serious money, but in the scheme of things, it fits the budget and it's going the right way. Are we better than this time last year? Yes. Have we got a team that looks like it's got potential to be even better? Yes. Is the style of play looking improved? Yes. Is the atmosphere in the stadium improved? Yes. Do more people want to come and see Arsenal? And I can tell you this because everyone's tapping me up even more for tickets all the time. So I know the level of demand to come and see Arsenal is higher now than it has been because I'm getting tapped up so much of people wanting tickets. So it's supply and demand, and you have to make the investments.
I'll have to get on to you after this about that. Get your tickets.
Yeah.
Do you know, I'm just reading another one here. What do you think the budget, 180 million?
For what?
For in the summer, I think there's sort of rumours saying that we have a budget of 180 million.
Yeah, as the Kroenkes come out and said that's what our budget is, or people just made up a figure saying?
Supposedly there's rumours of something with 180 or 200 million. That's what they're saying, papers and stuff like that.
Yes.
You
So,
think
so
we'd have
long as
enough?
so long as we can do it in a responsible way, but also I like the transfer window that we had back last summer. The fact that we didn't go out and buy, other than Ben White, who is still, so I think, worth more than what we paid for him now to what we did pay for him, or at least the same value. Is the players we bought for potential and improved potential. I don't want to see us buy a ready-made player that's on his way down. I mean, that Aubameyang deal to, the guy was in his 30s or coming up to his, I think he's 29 at the time when he re-signed that deal. He relied on speed. He'd had his best years. So why give someone that's had his best years that sort of size contract? It made no sense whatsoever.
You acting. You're a good actor anyway. You're getting all the compliments tonight.
Yeah, Joanne Smith, for female as well. Compliments for that. That's the first.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Joanne.
Here's another one. This is Vicky here. She's a United supporter. Arsenal 2, Man United 4. 2005 was a cracker. Thanks a million.
I don't remember that one.
I think, was that the Champions League? No, it wasn't. Jeez,
that was 4 Champions League.
Yeah.
2005 might have been around that time. I don't remember.
No, we would have been still in Highbury at the time, definitely.
Yeah, 2005. Yeah, I can't remember that.
Yeah. Do you yeah, so I was just, let's say you're not going to change your mind. You're Arteta in, and that's the way it is.
Oh, I am going to change my mind if I'm transient. I'm just less transient. It takes me a longer while to kind of get warmed up to things and a longer while to get cold to stuff. I don't just change. I mean, some of my my AFTV friends will literally go from one extreme to another in the course of a couple of minutes, depending on what they see on the pitch. I just try to take more of a longer term view. That's all. And at the moment, I see that he's doing well. To begin with, I just said he needed a chance. And that's why I used the Ferguson analogy. And as far as I'm concerned, he's doing well. It's an improvement. But if things change, then I'll be Arteta out. But at the moment, it will take me longer. I don't just flip flop.
What do you think of this question here, Julian? If Simone came out tomorrow and said, "I want to be Arsenal manager," would you sack Arteta? It's a good question.
Yeah, I couldn't sack Arteta at the moment. But if with Simone, he's a great manager. He really is a great manager. It would be, if I was going to be that harsh and sack Arteta, the only one it would be for would be Simeone.
Right, that's fair enough. Julian, do you still think Arteta is the best manager ever, given football has seen great managers like Jock Stein, Brian Clough, Alex Ferguson, Bob Paisley, Bill Shankly, etc.?
Well, I never said he was the best manager.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where they've got it from. I said you will never know if he's going to be a great manager if you don't give him a chance.
Julian, you can't give Mikel a 3-year deal. I personally wouldn't give him 3 years. It's not great because it will ruin our club. Do you agree with that?
No, because if he does crap, we get rid of him. We just have to pay him off the pro rata of 8.3, which in the scheme of things isn't that bigger money. It gives him the financial security to do the job to the best of his abilities. And if it doesn't go well, look at Emery. He had a 3-year contract. I think we got rid of him after less than a season and a half. But that's the reality of the modern game with managers. You don't need to keep them for the duration of their contracts. You can sack them and pay them off. And paying them off is a lot cheaper than paying off an Ozil or an Aubameyang or a Willian. So it's less of a risk. Everything's a risk, unless you've got a DeLorean. And I don't. So I can't absolutely say what's going to happen in the future, nor can anyone. But it's a calculated risk. He's doing okay. Things are improving. 8.3 million might be a lot of money, but it's not something that's going to ruin us. But Champions League qualification could make us.
Do you? And that's what my next question was. Do you think that we can get Champions League this season?
Yes, it's absolutely on. It's for us to lose. We're in the driving seat. We're in pole position for it. The other teams around us, who are we competing with? West Ham,
There's our next 5 games there. Watford away, Leicester at home, Liverpool at home, Villa away, Palace away. If we win those games, you believe we get top 4, yeah? So
yeah, I think he's on. Watford are going to be. I'd say out of all those, I think Watford could be our hardest game. They're going to be fighting for survival. You don't want to be playing a team near the bottom towards the end of the season that have got a chance of getting out. I think if we played them pardon?
Liverpool, they'll stuff us.
Well, it depends when. Will Liverpool have their eye on something else? Well, it depends. If Liverpool are, I would have said a few weeks ago that would have been an easier game. But now with Liverpool and Man City a lot closer, they'll have more incentive. I was hoping that Liverpool would kind of be, they're second, but they'd never get first. But now they've got a chance of being first. So yeah, that's going to be tricky. But they're also competing in the FA Cup. They're competing in the Champions League. They'll be playing cup finals every couple of days, whereas we've only got to play cup finals at best once a week.
But
it's going to be tough. It would have been less tough had Liverpool been pretty much entrenched in second place, but now they've got a real chance of a win league, possibly the quadruple.
I just think with this season, with us not being in Europe and stuff like that, and we're out of all competitions, we should, let's say, technically, you're playing a game a week or something like that. We should be well able for it. And you're coming up with, as you said, the likes of Liverpool. They might have something on, but they will be clearly going for the league, and that's sort of my understanding of it. And they are unbelievable. But look, I'm going to sort of wrap it up here, and look, thanks a million for everyone that was. Came in the chatting, I was trying to get through a lot of questions. There's loads of them here, and really do appreciate it. Julian, do you want to just shout out any of your socials or anything like that, or anything you want to say?
You're talking with Down with the Kids Lounge here. What's the socials?
I need subtitles.
Right.
I was just saying. Do you want to shout out your Instagram or Twitter?
If I could remember it, Julian. I think Julian 89. Do you know what it is? Hold on, let's have a look. This is how much I know about it. There we go. Julian 89 AFC. Julian 89 JULIAN 89 AFC. Now, unfortunately, the 89 isn't from the year I was born, because I was born in 71. The 89 was the greatest year of my life. A number of things happened, but the biggest thing in my life, and still to date, was Arsenal won the league May 26th, 1989.
Yeah, and I'll tell you,
Liverpool 0, Arsenal 2. And if you look over my my right shoulder, you will see the seat from Anfield that I kind of broke accidentally from that night. A tangible piece of history. Let's get it. There we go. Look at that.
No way.
Yeah, way.
Sorry, someone there. Is that Twitter you were saying there, Julian 89?
Pardon? Oh, no, that's Instagram. No, Twitter I haven't worked out how to use yet. That was a bit too complicated for me.
Well, Julian, I'm going to sort of. I'd love to do. I have plans in my head. We'll discuss it. Let's say in the green room or something like that. But I'd love to get you back on again, and sort of go through a few things with you. I'd love to. Let's say, my favorite season as well is the 1989 season, and it's the year that I started supporting Arsenal. As an Irish supporter, you can support whoever you want. You're not sort of tied to the area and stuff like that. That year, I was him and Han. Who do I support? And once I was watching Arsenal that season, and when Mickey Thomas scored that goal in Anfield to beat them 2-0, that signed, sealed, and delivered the deal for me, and I became a Gooner that day. But I love talking about sort of past history and football and stuff like that. And I may try to get a guest as well on with us, and we can sort of bounce off sort of bit of stories and stuff like that. I think it'd be entertaining if you're willing to come back on.
Yeah. No, look, I lived most of my life in the past, and whenever I think about '89, I think of Brian Moore's famous commentary that I used to know verbatim. I think it was something along the lines of Arsenal come streaming forward now, and surely what will be their last attack. A good ball by Dixon finding Smith for Thomas charging through the midfield. Thomas, it's up for grabs now. Thomas right at the end, an unbelievable climax to the league season. And it was the most unbelievable climax I've ever had. So that's why I remember it.
Just you could get arrested for that criminal damage, mate.
Yeah, well, that is another story. And I have to say, on the Monday, my mother phoned Liverpool because she was so embarrassed, and she said, "Look, my son's got your seat. Can you give me your address to send it back in the post?" And the girl at customer services or ticket office, wherever it was, sort of laughed and said, "Oh, he's done us a favour because we're actually going to replace the seats in that stand over close season, so it saved us the bother of ripping it out ourselves."
Yeah, fair enough. That's good. Yeah, look, thanks a million, everyone, for tuning in and, taking part. And there's a load of questions there, and I'm sorry I didn't get through them all. And I still have a load of questions for Julian as well to answer. You're Arteta in, I'm Arteta out. But look, we had a good debate today, I think. And you want to any plans coming up for you with AFTV, or what's sort of your week schedule?
Well, I've been with the Watford game. I think, have I got any shows on AFTV this week? I don't think I have. I think I've got one. I'm doing a podcast called The Marble Halls, and we're lining up a few more quite famous guests, but that should be in the next few weeks. We'll have a few of those on. So I do the odd thing, but at the moment, the next thing scheduled for me with AFTV will be the Watford fan cams, which are always good fun because they're absolutely not planned. And one of the reasons we end up saying some silly things at times is because we only get to see the game live. We quite often we don't see replay, so it's kind of your first reaction. Your first reaction isn't always the correct reaction.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I do a few watch-alongs as well, with Northside and stuff like that. He was in the chat there earlier on. Big up Northside. Well, yeah, we do live chats, and one or two streams may be quicker than the others are lagging, and you hear something, and it's crazy, all right. But you do be getting clipped and all, you know what I mean? Look at this fucking Egypt there celebrating, and it wasn't a goal, stuff like that. Look, we'll leave it there. Thanks a million, Julian, for coming on, and thanks for everyone in the chat. And if you please stick a like, subscribe, and all that stuff. I'll be probably doing another video or stream or something on Thursday. I think I'm going to do something. I might have a few people on a call-in show or something like that. But yeah, look, thanks a million, everyone. Take care and God bless.